Okay, guys, we just heard testimony, a deposition from Mary Bartell. Mary Bartell was the 91-year-old woman who was attacked in Plano back in March of 2018. Her case is the one that really kicked off this investigation and led to the identification of Chemirmir as a suspect. Judge Cañas, what did you think so far about what you heard?
Well, I think it's it's very methodical for sure. I think when Prosecutor Fitzmartin said he was going to be very detailed, I think he's living up to that promise. The deposition of the surviving victim, was. It did its job. She stated what happened to her. She talked about the jewelry that was taken from her, which I think is going to be an important link that the prosecution has to establish to go forward. But it also, she was honest. She didn't. She could not identify who did it. I think I have in my notes that she couldn't even say that it was an African American male that did it. And so, she was very honest about that. And so the deposition, at least helps the prosecution lay the foundation for that jewelry link. But it also, the defense was able to confirm that there was no way that she could identify Mr. Chemirmir either by visually, or even they asked her questions about, did you hear an accent in his voice? How he spoke. So she was not able to link him in that way directly. Obviously we've gone the whole morning now. We've heard 4 witnesses, and we still haven't heard a direct link to Mr. Chemirmir. I can at some level understand why we've gone the whole morning without hearing that direct link. But I would be surprised if we don't get directly into that early in the afternoon after the lunch break.
Well, I would almost bet lunch, but we've already got lunch here, that we're going to hear from an investigator. That to me, you've got to now take us to Chemirmir. How does Chemirmir come into the picture? And that, to me, that seems like the logical place. So if I was a betting person, I would say we're going to hear from an investigator with the Plano Police Department.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You go ahead. You go ahead, Judge.
No, I think that's right, because I think if, without knowing who's sitting in that jury, if the prosecution has any doubts about whether those jurors, where they're starting off at, I think for the jury at least, they're going to need to make that connection here pretty soon. And if not only for emotional reasons, but just to get that jury to say, okay, we're on the right track. The prosecution's going somewhere. I'm going to stay invested in this. If they continue to just kind of lay groundwork before they do that, I can intellectually understand that, but I would worry that the prosecution may lose some jurors.
Right. If you and I are getting a little bit, and you and I would consider us courthouse denizens.
Right.
We've attended plenty of trials. I've covered a lot of trials, and so if we're kind of tuning out a little bit, you have to figure folks who don't normally go sit in a courtroom. Right. But I get why they're doing it. They're trying to establish where that jewelry was, that it should not have been not where it was. That her wedding ring was on one hand, that her engagement ring was on the other. So they're laying all that. I understand why they're doing it, but it felt kind of lengthy. And part of me kept thinking, God, could we show the TV version of this, the clip down version? But maybe not. Maybe that wasn't possible.
Right. Yeah, and it may not have been possible. And so we'll see. We'll have to see how it all fits together in the end, and maybe at the end of their presentation, at the end of their case in chief, it may make total sense how they put this together. The defense, we heard them ask some questions of substance for the first time in that deposition, and some of those questions were rather routine. Some of them were just to confirm that she couldn't identify Mr. Chemirmir in any way. I don't, they did not ask any questions regarding like, could somebody else have come into the apartment and taken the jewelry? Was the person that she let in the only person that came in? They didn't ask any questions of that sort. Even could she confirm that the jewelry was there on that date, that it hadn't been taken earlier? Those kinds of things. So maybe the defense isn't going to go there. Maybe they're just content to say, hey, this particular witness cannot identify our client, so we can concede that she was robbed. But she's not going to identify our client as the one who did it.
Well, and obviously you have to be gentle with a 91-year-old woman. I mean, that would not go over well with the jury if that is handled differently. I mean, let's just face that. And one thing I'll note from the comments that I'm seeing on YouTube is that, a lot of people are calling Mary Bartell a hero because her surviving this attack, her being found is, again, that's what triggers this set of events that leads to Mr. Chemirmir's arrest and to all these other criminal cases and to the finding of Lou Harris's body. And of course, that's the murder, the capital murder for which he is on trial right now. We're expecting this case to go about 4 days. I've scheduled guests for 5, but you know how trials are, Judge. It can.
Right.
Trials have their own rhythm. They go as long as they need to go. So, folks, the judge and I, we're gonna go have lunch ourselves. We'll come back a few minutes before 1:15 and give a recap and talk about what we've heard so far this morning. So, if you weren't able to watch the testimony this morning, we'll walk you through it, what you missed, and then we'll just see who they put on next.